Betrayal, deception, revenge. What you're about to hear is not fiction. I'm Booz, Nguyen, and every video on this channel is a confession, a scar, a buried truth. Subscribe if you're brave enough to hear the whole story. The divorce trial. The courtroom smelled faintly of old paper and disinfectant, that sterile scent of justice and decay. I sat there in my gray suit, palms cold despite the air-conditioning eyes fixed on the woman who used to be my entire world. Her name was Lily Carter, 32 years old, my wife. Or rather, the woman who would soon stop being that. 3 years younger than me, beautiful in a restrained, razor-sharp way. The kind of beauty that made people trust her, before realizing they shouldn't have. Across the room, she sat straight-backed beside her attorney in a navy blue suit that matched the color of her eyes. Eyes that used to look at me with love, now filled only with calculation. And me, I'm Ben Hayes, 35 owner, or supposed owner, of Hayes Logistics, a transport company my parents built from scratch over 35 years ago. A company I nearly lost once, rebuilt from the ground up, and now stood to lose again. Not because of bad business, because of her. 1.1 The claim. Judge Morrison's voice cut through the tension like a blade. Mrs. Carter, please proceed with your statement. Lily rose slowly, papers in hand, her tone measured but sharp. Your Honor, she began, I supported my husband through every stage of his company's growth. When his parents passed, the business was falling apart. I invested not only my time, but my money. I restructured the finances, managed the contracts, and negotiated with clients when he couldn't. Without me, there would be no Hayes Logistics as we know it today. She paused, turned slightly toward me, that small deliberate movement like a dagger's twist. I deserve half. And since the company cannot be split without destroying its value, I'm requesting that it be sold and the assets divided equally. Her voice was calm, professional, but her words detonated in my chest. Sell the company. Sell the legacy my father had spent his life building, just to split the money. I clenched my jaw so tight it hurt. My attorney, Rachel Stein, whispered, Don't react. But how could I not? 1.2 The outburst. Half, I said, unable to stop myself. You think you deserve half of something you didn't create? Judge Morrison gave me a warning look. Mr. Hayes, you'll have your turn. But Lily's smile, that faint, almost pitying smile, was worse than any reprimand. She replied, soft but venomous, Ben, everything you are, everything you've achieved is because I believed in you when no one else did. When your father's death left the company drowning in debt, I stayed. I handled the numbers, the suppliers, the logistics. You built the name, but I kept it alive. Her lawyer, Daniel Price, nodded smug. We have documentation of Mrs. Carter's contributions, Your Honor. Rachel whispered again. Don't say a word, we'll address it later. But my blood was boiling. I could almost see my father, his hands rough from decades of loading trucks, standing behind her watching her twist the knife into everything he ever stood for. 1.3 The legacy. When I was 16, my dad made me ride with him in one of the delivery trucks. We drove from Illinois to Nevada in 38 hours, stopping only for gas and coffee. He'd said to me, Benny, trucks don't just carry goods, they carry trust. That's what we sell. Not speed, not distance, trust. I'd never forgotten that. When he died in 2016, the company was a mess. Old debts, poor contracts, outdated systems. I was just a middle manager then, no MBA, no clue how to run a logistics empire. Lily came into my life around that time. She was smart, organized, and confident. She said she believed in me. She quit her job at a finance firm to help me rebuild. At first, she was my partner, my best decision. Then she became my weakness. 1.4 The crossfire. Mr. Hayes, the judge said, breaking my thoughts. You'll have an opportunity to respond to these claims. Rachel stood smooth and composed. Your Honor, Hayes Logistics was founded and developed by Mr. Hayes's parents decades before the marriage. Mrs. Carter was employed by the company but was compensated accordingly. Any financial decisions made during the marriage were joint, but ownership of the company remains a separate asset per Illinois marital law. Daniel Price interjected. However, Mrs. Carter's involvement directly contributed to the company's survival. Her work went far beyond a standard salaried role. She made strategic decisions that increased revenue by nearly 200%. We're prepared to provide records of those transactions. Judge Morrison nodded, slowly tapping his pen. This will require forensic accounting. In the meantime, I am ordering a temporary freeze on company assets until we can determine ownership and valuation. A freeze. Just like that, my company, my employees, my contracts, my entire livelihood was trapped in limbo because of one woman's ambition. 1.5 The look. When the judge adjourned for recess, I stood trying to breathe. The courtroom noise faded into a low hum. Lily walked past me, heels clicking like the rhythm of a countdown. She leaned close, her perfume sharp and familiar. "You should have signed the prenup I offered last year," she whispered. "Then we could have done this quietly." I froze. "What are you talking about?" She smiled faintly. "Don't act surprised. You knew this was coming, Ben. You just didn't want to believe it." And then she walked away, leaving me staring after her, realizing that this wasn't just about money. This was war. 1.6 The ally. Outside the courthouse, Rachel was already on the phone. "They froze all assets," she said. "That means payroll suppliers? Everything. You'll need to inform your operations team immediately." I nodded numbly. "How long can we last?" 2, maybe 3 weeks before contracts start breaking apart." She sighed. "Ben, I'll be honest. This isn't just a divorce case anymore. She's aiming for destruction. If she proves she contributed significantly, the court could award her equity or force liquidation." I rubbed my face. "I can't let that happen. My father—" Rachel stopped me. "Then we fight back. But to fight her, we need to understand her." Her words lingered. Understand her. The woman I'd loved for 10 years, slept beside, built dreams with, was now a stranger with a plan. 1.7 The first crack. That night I went back to the house. Or what used to be our house. The front yard light flickered half-broken, just like everything else. I hadn't been there in weeks. Since the separation, I'd been staying in a downtown apartment trying to avoid memories. Inside, the place was almost empty. Most of her things were gone, but the faint scent of her perfume still hung in the air, that citrus amber blend she used to wear. I sat in the dark living room staring at the family photo on the wall. The three of us, me, her, and my late father, taken the day Hayes Logistics reopened after the restructuring. I noticed something odd. A file folder behind the frame. It must have slipped when she was packing. I pulled it out. Inside were bank transfer receipts, shell company invoices, and emails, all under her name. My heart started to race. There were payments to a consulting firm I'd never heard of. Northland Freight Solutions, registered in Nevada. The amounts were large, too large, and some of the signatures looked like mine, only they weren't. I flipped through until one page made my stomach drop. A message dated 2 years ago. "The merger can't happen until Hayes is fully under our control. Make sure the accounts are tied to your name. Once it's done, I'll handle the rest." D. Who the hell was D? 1.8 The call. I called Rachel immediately. "Rachel, I found something. Documents transfers. She's been funneling money to a shell company." She paused. "Slow down. Are you sure?" "Positive. There's a name, Northland Freight Solutions, and someone signing as D." Her tone changed instantly. "Ben, listen to me carefully. Don't confront her. Don't contact her. Send me everything first thing tomorrow. We'll get a private investigator." "An investigator?" "Yes. Someone who can dig deeper. Because if what you're saying is true, this isn't just a divorce. This is fraud." 1.9 The realization. That night, sleep wouldn't come. I sat by the window watching the city lights blur through the rain. Every sound, a car horn, a passing siren, felt distant, unreal. 10 years of marriage, 10 years of building something together, only to realize maybe she'd been building something else all along. I remembered her laughter, her small hands holding mine the night we signed our first big contract. The tears she shed when my mother passed. The way she'd look at me across the dinner table, warm, confident, certain. Was any of it real? Or had it all been an act? A perfectly rehearsed performance leading to this exact moment. 1.10 The promise. The next morning I met Rachel again. She'd already contacted someone. "His name is Michael Torres," she said. "Private investigator. Ex-cop. Discreet. He'll find out who D is." I shook his hand. His grip was firm, his eyes sharp. "Mr. Hayes, I've seen this before. When money and power mix with love, people do crazy things. If your wife's been siphoning funds, we'll find it." I looked back at the courthouse across the street. The same building where she'd looked me in the eye and said she deserved half of everything. I clenched my fists, a cold resolve hardening inside me. "Find out who's behind her," I said. "Because I'm not just fighting for money. I'm fighting for my father's name." The past uncovered. 2.1 The investigator. Michael Torres arrived at my office 2 days later, a man built like a memory of the police force he'd once belonged to. Broad shoulders, a leather jacket that had seen more rain than sunlight, and eyes that told you he didn't believe in coincidences. He looked around my office. The framed picture of my parents, the awards, the company's mission statement hanging on the wall. "Nice place," he said, his voice low, gravelly. "Shame if someone decided to burn it down." I gave a humorless smile. That someone might be my wife. He took the folder I had given Rachel. The documents, the invoices, the mysterious email signed D. He flipped through them with quick, practiced hands. Northland Freight Solutions, he muttered. Nevada-based. That's interesting. Nevada's a black hole when it comes to corporate transparency. Could be a shell, could be nothing. But this D, he looked up at me. This guy's important. Whoever he is, I said, he's been communicating with Lily for years. She's been moving money through accounts I didn't even know existed. Michael nodded. All right, I'll dig. But you should prepare yourself, Mr. Hayes. When people hide money, they usually hide other things too. He left and the room felt colder after he was gone. 2.2 The flashback. That night, I couldn't stop thinking about the first time I met Lily. It was 2015. My father had just been hospitalized after a heart attack. I was 25, working as a regional operations manager, trying to prove myself to a man who'd built an empire out of diesel and sweat. Lily had come in as a financial consultant from an external firm tasked with helping the company restructure. I still remembered the way she'd walked into that meeting room. Crisp white blouse, black skirt, confidence radiating like sunlight. "You're Ben Hayes," she'd said, shaking my hand firmly. "Your father speaks highly of you." That had been a lie, of course. My father didn't speak highly of anyone. But I'd been flattered anyway. She'd stayed late that night going over the numbers with me. We'd shared coffee, laughter, and eventually something more dangerous. Trust. 2.3 The discovery. Michael called 3 days later. I found something, he said. You might want to sit down for this. He met me in a diner off Route 19, the kind of place where the coffee was bad but the waitresses remembered your name. He spread out a few printed documents on the table between us. Northland Freight Solutions was incorporated in Reno 8 years ago, he said. Guess who the registered founder was? I leaned in. Who? He tapped the name. Douglas Carter. The name hit me like a punch. Carter, I repeated. Yeah, Michael said. Your wife's maiden name before she married you. My blood ran cold. Who the hell is Douglas Carter? Her brother Michael said. At least that's what she told people. But here's the thing. There's no birth record for a Douglas Carter in Illinois where she claims she grew up. There is a Douglas Marin, though, convicted in 2008 for fraud and embezzlement. Served 5 years, disappeared after release. I stared at the papers, words blurring. So you're saying? I'm saying your wife might be working with a convicted con artist who changed his name and is running a ghost company under her maiden name. The diner's hum seemed to fade into silence. Michael leaned back, folding his arms. Ben, this wasn't an accident. If I had to guess, your marriage was part of the setup. 2.4 The confrontation. I didn't sleep that night. By morning, exhaustion had turned to rage. I drove straight to Lily's new condo downtown. A sleek glass tower that looked down on the city like a predator. She opened the door, wearing a white robe, her hair still damp from the shower. Ben, she said, startled. What are you? I shoved the folder into her hands. Douglas Carter. Ring a bell. Her face didn't move, too still, too perfect. You've been digging into me, she said quietly. Don't turn this around. Who is he? She sighed, setting the folder on the counter, her eyes never leaving mine. My brother. He needed help. That's all. Your brother is a convicted felon. He's been using your name to siphon money from my company. Her tone turned cold. Our company. I stepped closer. You lied to me, for years. Lily's eyes flickered just for a second. You don't understand what your father did to my family. That stopped me. What did you just say? She hesitated, then whispered, My father trusted yours. He invested everything into Hayes Logistics back when it was still small. Your father promised him a partnership, but instead, he cut him out. My family lost everything. My father died in debt. So yes, I married you. But I also rebuilt what your father destroyed. I felt the world tilt. You married me for revenge. Her eyes glistened, not with tears but fury. I married you to reclaim what was stolen. I stood there, the sound of my heartbeat loud in my ears. Lily, I said softly, you could have told me. We could have made it right. She shook her head. You wouldn't have believed me. Just like you don't now. I left before I said something I couldn't take back. 2.5 The past rewritten. Back in my office, I couldn't think. I stared at the company's mission plaque again. Integrity, reliability, family. Was it all built on a lie? Had my father really betrayed someone? I called Rachel, told her everything Lily said. She listened quietly. Even if it's true, Rachel said, that doesn't justify fraud. She could have sued, not stolen. But if my father really cheated her family... I trailed off. Rachel sighed. Ben, don't get lost in guilt. She's manipulating you. Stay focused. Still, the seed was planted. I couldn't unhear what Lily said. That night I went through my father's old ledgers. Yellowed pages, handwritten contracts from the 80s and 90s. And there it was, Carter Freight Partners, 1989. A joint venture. Dissolved 2 years later. In the margins, my father had written one sentence in red ink. Carter breached contract. Removed from partnership. But there was no explanation, no evidence, just that line. 2.6. The Ghost of Douglas. A week later, Michael called again. Ben, we've got movement. I tracked a recent wire transfer, $50,000, from Northland Freight to an account in Los Angeles under the name Douglas Marin. The same guy. Where is he now? Last sighting, a warehouse near Long Beach. Looks like he's running some kind of import business. You want me to go there? I hesitated. Yes, but be careful. 2 days later, he sent me a message. Found him. He knows I'm looking. This goes deeper than you think. That was the last I heard from Michael for 24 hours. Then his assistant called me, said he'd been hospitalized after an accident. His car had been run off the road outside Long Beach. The police said it looked like a hit and run, but I knew better. 2.7 the warning. The next morning, I found a note slipped under my office door. No signature. Just a single line written in neat, deliberate handwriting. Stop digging, Ben. Some legacies should stay buried. I stared at the paper for a long time. My office window reflected my own face. Tired, haunted, angry. That was the moment I realized this wasn't about a divorce anymore. It wasn't even about money. It was about revenge. And someone was willing to kill for it. 2.8. The ally returns. Rachel arrived within the hour. You're not safe, she said bluntly. If this man, Douglas, is dangerous, we need to involve law enforcement. No, I said. Not yet. Ben, if I call the cops, everything goes public. The company's reputation will be destroyed. I'll lose everything my parents built. Rachel sighed. Then we do this quietly. But we do it smart. I'll get a digital forensics expert to recover Michael's files. Maybe he found something before the crash. I nodded. Do it. And Rachel? Yes. Find out if Lily knew what happened to him. Her eyes softened. Ben, be careful. Whatever this is, it's not over. 2.9. The flash drive. 2 days later, Rachel handed me a small flash drive. This was in Michael's car. Encrypted, but my tech cracked it. I plugged it into my laptop. Inside was a single folder named Legacy. It contained dozens of documents, offshore account statements, communications between Lily and Douglas, even copies of forged contracts transferring Hayes Logistics assets. But the last file was different, a video clip. It showed Lily in an office, my office, talking to a man with his back to the camera. She said once it's done, he'll have nothing left, not even his name. The man replied, "Good. That's what your father would have wanted." And then he turned slightly, enough for me to see his face. Douglas Marin, and behind him a framed photograph on the wall, my father and Douglas's father shaking hands. The past wasn't buried. It had just been waiting. 2.10, the decision. I sat there in silence after the video ended. My hands were shaking. Rachel looked at me. What are you going to do? I stared out the window at the trucks moving in and out of the yard below. The same trucks my parents once drove themselves. I'm going to finish what my father started, I said. But this time, I'll do it my way. She frowned. Ben, no more lawyers, no more courtrooms. I want the truth. And I want it from her. The rain started again outside, hitting the glass like a countdown. Because the next time I saw Lily, one of us wouldn't walk away the same, the web of deceit. 3.1. The awakening. I used to think betrayal felt like a knife, sharp, quick, final. But it's not. It's slower. Like poison. It spreads until every part of your life feels contaminated. That's how it felt walking through the warehouse floor that morning. The hum of forklifts, the clatter of chains, the smell of diesel. Everything that once grounded me now felt hollow. Rachel's voice echoed in my head. Don't do anything stupid, Ben. But it was already too late for that. I wasn't looking for peace anymore. I was looking for answers. 3.2. The shadow account. Michael Torres was still in the hospital, sedated and bruised, but alive. His assistant, a young tech named Eddie, met me in the parking lot of the logistics center. Nervous kid. Couldn't have been more than 25. I got into one of the offshore accounts, Eddie said, opening his laptop in the passenger seat of my truck. You won't like what I found. I watched the screen as he navigated through encrypted files. Transactions. Millions of dollars. Dates matching major Hayes Logistics contracts. See here, he said. Funds were diverted from your client payments. Legit invoices, fake vendors. The money bounces through shell companies before landing in Northland Freight's account. And then? Eddie's jaw tightened. Then it disappears into a trust in the Cayman Islands. Beneficiary name, Lily Hayes. I stared at the screen. For a long time, I didn't speak. Then I said quietly, send me everything. 3.3 The network. By evening, I was in Rachel's office again. She'd barely looked up when I walked in. Jesus, Ben, you look like you haven't slept in days. I haven't, I said, tossing a flash drive on her desk. That's where the money went. She plugged it in, scanned through the files, her face growing grimmer by the minute. "This is massive," she whispered. "We're talking years of systematic embezzlement." She didn't just plan this. She executed it flawlessly. "She had help," I said. "Douglas couldn't have done all this alone. Someone on the inside had to be laundering the contracts." Rachel frowned. "Who?" I looked out the window at the skyline. The same skyline Lily had once said made her feel like she belonged. "I don't know yet," I said. "But I'm going to find out." 3.4 The Informant. The first clue came from an unlikely source, Henry Wallace, our senior accountant. He'd been with the company since my father's days, loyal, quiet, and dependable. When I called him into my office, he looked uneasy. "Henry," I began, "you handled the supplier accounts for the Western Division, right?" He nodded slowly. "Yes, sir. For nearly 15 years. I slid one of the fake invoices across the table. "You ever see this vendor?" He hesitated, a flicker of guilt passing across his face. "Mr. Hayes," he said finally, voice shaking. "I was told to process them by your wife. She said it was part of a subcontracting expansion." I didn't question it. The orders looked legitimate. "Did you get anything from her in return?" Henry swallowed hard. "A bonus? A large one." "She said it was for loyalty." I leaned forward. "Loyalty to whom, Henry?" He didn't answer, but I saw the truth in his eyes. 3.5 The Trap. That night I devised a plan. If Lily wanted to destroy me through the courts, I'd expose her in the one place she couldn't control, the financial records. I worked with Eddie to create a mirror database. Every hidden transaction we uncovered, every forged signature, every offshore link, all meticulously traced back to her and Douglas. We called it Project Phoenix, because this time, if Hayes Logistics was going to burn, it would rise again from the ashes. 3.6 The Visitor. 2 days later, she came to see me. "Lily." It was late, past 9 p.m. The office was empty, lights, low city glowing outside like a silent witness. She walked in without knocking, her heels echoing on the floor. She looked tired but composed, a storm wrapped in silk. "I heard you've been busy," she said. "Depends who you've been talking to." She smirked. "You always underestimate me, Ben. You think hiring some washed-up PI and a kid hacker will change anything? You're still playing catch-up." "I'm not catching up," I said. "I'm closing in." Her smile faded. "You shouldn't have dug this deep," she said softly. "You don't know who you're dealing with." "Douglas," I said. "He's a con artist. You're helping him steal what's left of my parents' life's work." Her jaw tightened. "You think this is about your parents? You think you're the only one with a legacy to protect?" For the first time, I saw something raw behind her eyes. Pain. Then she whispered, "You're in over your head, Ben. Walk away before it's too late." And then she left. 3.7 The Fire. That night, the warehouse burned. At 2:47 a.m., my phone buzzed. A call from the night manager. "Sir, it's the East Dock. The whole place is on fire. We think it was arson." I drove there half crazed, still wearing my shirt from the day before. Flames devoured everything. Trucks, cargo, years of work. The heat was so intense the air shimmered like glass. Firefighters struggled to control it. Rachel arrived minutes later, face pale. "Jesus Christ." "It's them," I said. "They're wiping the evidence." She turned to me. "Ben, you have to tell the police everything. This is beyond us now." I hesitated. I wanted to. God, I wanted to. But then I saw Lily standing across the street. Half hidden in the crowd, her expression unreadable. She didn't run. She just watched the flames reflect in her eyes like she'd been waiting for this moment her entire life. And I understood. This wasn't about winning, it was about erasing me. 3.8 The Deeper Web. 2 days later, Eddie cracked another encrypted folder from the flash drive. "Ben," he said, "you're going to want to see this." It contained internal memos from a rival logistics firm, Titan Freight, one of our biggest competitors. Every file showed payment transfers between Titan Freight and Northland Freight, the company Lily and Douglas had been funneling money into. I scanned through the documents, heart pounding. Titan's been bankrolling them. Worse, Eddie said, they're planning a hostile acquisition. Once your company collapses under legal pressure, Titan swoops in to buy the assets through a proxy. Guess who's listed as Titan's financial advisor? I froze. Lily, he nodded grimly. Everything clicked. The lawsuit, the asset freeze, the sabotage, the fire. It was all part of one master plan. Destroy Hayes Logistics from within, then sell the remains to the enemy. And Lily was the bridge. 3.9 The decision. Rachel stared at the evidence, speechless. This is corporate espionage, Ben. Criminal conspiracy. If we take this to the feds, she's done. But I wasn't satisfied with done. I wanted her to see what she'd tried to destroy. I wanted her to feel it. No, I said. Not yet. Let her think she's won. We'll make our move when she least expects it. Rachel frowned. Ben, revenge isn't justice. Maybe not, I said quietly. But it's all I've got left. 3:10 The ambush. The next night, I arranged a meeting, through Henry the accountant, pretending to offer a settlement. I knew Lily would show up. She never turned down a chance to gloat. We met in an abandoned terminal on the edge of the city. The place smelled of rust and gasoline, fitting somehow. She arrived in a black car alone, or so I thought. You wanted to talk, she said, arms crossed. I held up a USB drive. This contains every transfer, every forged contract, every email. You can end this now. Walk away and I won't go to the authorities. She tilted her head. You think you're in control? Then the shadows shifted. A man stepped out from behind her. Douglas Marin, alive, smug, and very much real. Well, he said, grinning, if it isn't little Benny Hayes. Heard you've been snooping where you shouldn't. Stay away from me, I said. He chuckled. You really think this is about you? Your daddy played dirty, and now you're paying the debt. Lily glanced between us, something flickering in her eyes. Guilt, maybe. Douglas turned to her. Get the drive, Lily. We finish this tonight. She hesitated, and that hesitation saved my life. Because a second later, headlights flooded the terminal. Police cars. Rachel had called them anyway. Chaos erupted. Douglas ran. Lily screamed. Officers shouted commands. When it was over, Douglas was gone. Lily was in handcuffs. And I was standing in the middle of it all, staring at the drive in my hand. The one piece of truth left in a sea of lies. 3:11, the fallout. At the station, Lily refused to look at me. Why, I asked her softly. After everything we built together? Why? She closed her eyes. Because you were never meant to have it. None of it. My father died believing your family destroyed him. I promised him I'd take it back. Tears welled in her eyes. Real this time. But somewhere along the way, I started to believe you were different. That maybe we could both win. I swallowed hard. And Douglas, her voice broke. He wouldn't let me stop. For a moment, we just looked at each other. Two people who'd loved lied and lost everything. Then the officer led her away. 3:12, the cliffhanger. The next morning, the news broke: logistics empire scandal. Corporate espionage ring exposed. Douglas Marin was still at large. Federal agents froze Titan Freight's accounts. Lily remained in custody facing charges. But that night I received an email. No subject line, no sender, just one line of text. You think it's over? You're wrong. She wasn't the only one. And attached. A photo of my father, standing beside Douglas Marin, smiling. The fire beneath the ashes, 4.1 the ghost's return. The morning after Lily's arrest, I sat alone in my father's study. The room smelled like him. Leather whiskey, old books, and the faint scent of diesel from his work jacket still hanging behind the door. On the desk lay the photo from the email, my father, Robert Hayes, standing beside Douglas Marin. Smiling, shaking hands, looking like partners. Partners. I kept staring at it, waiting for it to make sense. How could the man who'd built Hayes Logistics from the ground up, the man who'd taught me about honor, hard work, and integrity, be standing with the same con artist who'd tried to destroy us? The door creaked open. Rachel entered quietly. You haven't slept. I didn't answer. I was too busy turning the photo over in my hands, searching for a date, a signature, anything. There was nothing. Just two men frozen in a moment I couldn't explain. Who sent it? She asked. I shook my head. No idea. But whoever it was, they wanted me to see this. Rachel sat across from me. Maybe it's fake, a manipulation. Maybe, I said. But what if it's not? 4.2 The hidden files. By noon, I was digging through my father's old archive in the basement. Boxes of records, contracts, ledgers, and letters. Most were familiar. Invoices, shipping manifests, payroll forms. But near the bottom of one box, I found a locked metal case I'd never seen before. The key was taped under the desk drawer. My father's old trick. Inside were several folders marked with the initials M Project and a date, 1996-2002. Rachel leaned over my shoulder as I opened the first file. It contained early contracts between Hayes Logistics and a smaller firm, Marin Freight Company. The signatures matched. Douglas Marin, Robert Hayes. But these weren't just business agreements. They were illegal kickback deals. Under-the-table payments, falsified shipment records, tax evasions. My father had been laundering money through Marin's company. My hands started to shake. This can't be right. Rachel exhaled slowly. Ben, your father wasn't just a victim. He was part of it. 4.3 The debt. The deeper we went, the uglier it became. It turned out in the late 90s my father had expanded too quickly. The company nearly collapsed under debt. To survive, he'd taken private investments from Marin. Money that came from illegal smuggling operations through Florida's shipping routes. Marin helped cover the losses. In return, he wanted a permanent cut of the profits, off the books. When my father tried to end the deal years later, Marin blackmailed him with evidence of their collaboration. That's when the feud began. But it didn't end when my father died. It passed on, to me. And Lily, she was Marin's weapon. 4.4 The letter. At the bottom of the metal case, I found an envelope sealed with wax. My father's handwriting. For Ben, when you're ready. My heart pounded as I opened it. Ben, If you're reading this, then you've learned the truth. I did what I had to do to keep our family afloat, but the price was higher than I ever imagined. Marin and I built an empire on lies, and I spent the rest of my life trying to wash the blood off my hands. Your mother never knew. I made sure of that. But Marin, he wanted more. When I refused, he swore he'd take everything from me. And from you. If he's still out there, be careful. He doesn't forgive. I only hope that when the time comes, you'll do what I couldn't end this once and for all. Dad, I stared at the letter until the words blurred. End this once and for all? What did he mean, revenge redemption? I wasn't sure anymore. 4.5 The past that won't die. Later that night, I drove to the docks, the place where my father and Marin had first met according to the old records. The warehouses stood empty, now silent witnesses to a crime that had never truly been buried. As I stood there, my phone buzzed. A private number. Ben Hayes, I answered. A voice I hadn't heard in years rasped on the other end. You shouldn't be digging through graves, son. Douglas Marin. He chuckled darkly. Took you long enough. Guess your old man didn't teach you everything. What do you want? What I've always wanted. What your father owed me. You mean the money? I mean the truth, Marin said. You think you're the hero here? Your father ruined me. Stole my routes, my clients, my life's work. You think I became a criminal because I wanted to? He forced my hand. I'm just taking back what's mine. He paused, his tone turning cold. And Lily? She was supposed to end it clean. But you made her care. That was her mistake. My blood ran cold. Where are you? He laughed softly. Closer than you think. The line went dead. 4.6 The visit. That night I returned home to find my front door ajar. I froze. Inside, the lights were off. Shadows stretched across the living room. The smell of cigarette smoke lingered in the air. On the table sat a single item, the photo of my father and Marin, now with fresh handwriting across the back. You can't burn what's already ash. Then I heard the sound. Footsteps upstairs. I grabbed the metal flashlight from the counter and moved silently toward the staircase. My heart hammered so loud I could barely hear. But when I reached the top, the room was empty. Only the window was open, and on the sill, a half-burned cigar. Marin had been here. 4.7 The crack in the mirror. Rachel moved in with me the next day for safety. She'd insisted on calling the police, but I refused. Marin wants me to panic, I said. He wants me to run. She frowned. Ben, this isn't about pride. This man's dangerous. You saw what he did to the warehouse. I know, I said. That's why I have to finish it. We worked day and night to compile everything. The financials, the smuggling records, the false identities. But the more I uncovered, the more I started questioning everything I knew about myself. If my father had lied about his past, what else wasn't true? And why did Marin's name appear on my birth certificate as a witness? 4.8 The DNA. Rachel didn't believe me at first. But the evidence was there, in the county archives. Marin's signature on my birth record. We sent samples for a DNA test. One from my father's personal effects, one from me. 3 days later, the results came in. The father-son probability 78%, not 99.9%, not certain, meaning there was a chance. A horrifying small but real chance. That Marin wasn't just my father's partner. He was my biological father. 4.9 The breakdown. I couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The room spun around me like a carousel gone mad. Rachel tried to calm me, but I pushed away. All this time, I whispered. She knew. Lily knew. That's why she said I didn't understand who I was. Ben, she wasn't just taking revenge on me. She was helping him reclaim his legacy. My life, my name. I laughed, the kind of broken, bitter laugh that doesn't sound human. My father built this company on a lie. And now I'm paying for it with the truth. 4.10 The turning point. That night I drove again. Not sure where, just needing to move. Rain hammered the windshield, blurring the city lights. I ended up outside the detention center where Lily was being held. I don't know what I expected. Closure, maybe. Or answers. Through the glass partition, she looked smaller than I remembered. Tired. Human. They told me about the fire, she said quietly. You said it. She shook her head. No, Douglas did. I tried to stop him. Why, I asked. Why tell me now? Because you deserve to know the truth? She said, her eyes softening. Your father wasn't the only one who made deals with the devil. We all did. But you still have a chance to end it differently. She leaned closer. Douglas won't stop, not until he burns everything your family touched. And if he finds out what you just discovered... Her voice trailed off. What? She whispered, he'll kill you, Ben. 4.11 The realization. When I left the facility, the rain had stopped. The city was silent, washed clean but cold. I thought of my father's letter. Of Lily's tears. Of Marin's voice in the dark. Everything. Every lie, every betrayal, every loss led to one truth. This wasn't just about legacy anymore. It was about blood. And I couldn't escape it. Not until I faced him. Not until one of us was gone. Ashes of the Truth, 5.1. The calm before. For the first time in weeks, the city felt still. No fire, no sirens, no courtrooms. Just silence. But inside me there was a storm. Rachel sat across from me in my office. What was left of it, anyway. The walls were bare, the blinds half closed. She looked exhausted, eyes rimmed red from too many nights spent tracing the same labyrinth of corruption that never seemed to end. "You can still walk away, Ben," she said softly. "Let the feds handle it. They have enough evidence to bury Marin for good." I looked out the window. A truck rumbled by, below the logo of Hayes Logistics still painted across its side. Faded, but standing. "I can't," I said. "Not until I hear it from him. The truth." Rachel sighed. "Then at least don't go alone." "I have to," I said. "This isn't just business anymore. It's blood." 5.2 The bait. Eddie found the trace. Douglas had been moving through the state under a string of fake names, using offshore accounts to liquidate assets tied to Titan Freight. But his last transaction pinged a storage yard 2 hours north of the city. A forgotten depot that once belonged to Hayes Logistics before the expansion. "Looks like he's tying up loose ends," Eddie said. "Then that's where I'll end it," I replied. I sent a single message to Marin's encrypted address. "You wanted what my father owed you. Come get it." And I attached a photo of the letter. He responded an hour later. "Midnight. Bring the letter, alone." 5.3 The reckoning. The depot was a graveyard of rusted trucks and broken crates, the air thick with the scent of oil and dust. The wind carried whispers through shattered windows. I parked the car, turned off the headlights, and stepped out. He was already there. Douglas Marin, older, leaner eyes, sharp as ever. A pistol glinted in his hand, not quite pointed at me, but close enough. "Glad you could make it, son," he said. I froze. "Don't call me that." He smiled faintly. "Why not? You've got my temper, my eyes." Robert always hated that. "You're lying." He shook his head slowly. "He never told you the truth, did he?" "I met your mother before he did. We were partners, in business and in everything else. She chose him because he had money, because he could give her the family name I couldn't. But she never told him about you." I clenched my fists. "You're trying to manipulate me." "Am I?" he said, pulling a folded photo from his pocket. My mother, young, smiling, standing between both men. The same smile I'd seen in the mirror my whole life. I swallowed hard. "Why now? Why come after me?" "Because Robert died without paying his debt. And because I wanted my legacy back. You and everything he built belonged to me." 5.4 The gun and the truth. He stepped closer. The gun gleamed in the light filtering through the roof. "You've spent your life worshipping a man who was just as dirty as I am," Marin said. "You think you're better. You're just his shadow trying to erase the stains he left behind." I pulled the letter from my jacket and tossed it at his feet. "You want your truth? Read it. He admits everything. The smuggling, the deals, the blackmail." He didn't look down. His eyes stayed on me. "I don't care about the paper," he said. "I care about you. You're my insurance policy. The last living proof of what we were." Then he raised the gun, and for a moment I thought it was over, until a voice behind us shouted, "Drop it, Rachel." She'd followed me after all. Gun drawn, hands steady. Marin laughed softly. "Ah, the lawyer. You think you can fix this with laws and files?" He swung his arm toward her, and instinct took over. I lunged forward, grabbing his wrist. The gun fired once, deafening. The sound echoed through the depot like thunder. We crashed against a stack of crates fighting for control. He was stronger than I expected. Rage made him young again. "You can't escape blood, Ben," he hissed. "You're mine." I twisted his arm, the gun clattering to the floor. "No," I said through gritted teeth. "I'm my father's son, the one who tried to stop you." He swung, catching me across the jaw. Pain exploded through my skull. I staggered back, grabbed the gun, and aimed. He froze. "Do it," he said, smirking. "Go ahead. End it. Prove you're just like him." My hand trembled. The weight of the gun felt like the entire history of my family pressing down on me. Rachel's voice cut through the chaos. "Ben, don't." I hesitated. And that's when Marin moved. He charged, but before he reached me, Rachel fired. One shot, clean, final. Marin fell. 5.5 The silence after. The echo of the gunshot faded into the night. For a long moment, no one spoke. Rachel's hands shook as she lowered the weapon. He was going to kill you." I nodded, still staring at the body. "I know." The wind rustled through the open door, carrying the smell of rain and smoke. I knelt beside Marin. His eyes were still open, the faintest hint of a smile frozen on his face. "I told you," he whispered, weakly, blood pooling beneath him. "You can't burn what's already ash." Then he went still. 5.6 The aftermath. The police came soon after. Statements, reports, questions. Rachel was cleared. Self-defense. I backed every word. The feds took the files from Project Phoenix and Marin's remaining evidence. Titan Freight's executives were arrested within the week. Lily, after cooperating with investigators, was granted partial immunity and moved into witness protection. Hayes Logistics was saved, barely, but it didn't feel like victory. The name survived, yes. The empire stood. But the foundation, everything I thought it was built on, was gone. And in its place was only truth. 5.7 The Visit. Months later, I visited Lily one last time. A quiet government safe house outside Portland. She looked different. Calmer, lighter, as if the burden she'd carried for years had finally lifted. "They told me you kept the company," she said. "For now," I replied. "I'm rebuilding, smaller, honest." She smiled faintly. "Your father would be proud." I shook my head. "Which one?" She hesitated. Then she said softly, "The one who raised you. That's what matters." There was a pause. "Lily," I asked quietly, "did you know about Marin and me?" She looked away. "I suspected, but it didn't matter. You were never like him." I nodded slowly. "Neither were you." When I left, she called after me. "Ben, don't let the past own you. You already won by surviving it." 5.8 The Last Letter. Back home, I sat in my father's study again. The light of dawn spilled across the desk, touching the old family photo. I opened the drawer and took out one final item, a blank piece of company letterhead. At the top, I wrote Hayes Logistics rebuilt from the ashes. Then beneath it, "To my future son or daughter, you'll hear stories about betrayal, greed, and the mistakes our family made. But remember, this legacy isn't what you inherit. It's what you rebuild after it's been destroyed. I learned that the hard way, and I hope you never have to. Ben." I folded the letter, placed it in the safe where my father's old one had been. A cycle broken. A legacy reborn. 5.9 Epilogue. The New Dawn. A year later. Hayes Logistics reopened under a new name, Ashline Transport, a tribute to everything that had burned and everything that had risen again. Rachel became head of legal. Eddie ran cybersecurity. We stayed small, local, clean. Sometimes, late at night, I'd stand by the loading dock watching the trucks roll out under the glow of streetlights. And I'd think of my father, of Marin, of Lily. 3 lives intertwined by ambition, guilt, and love. And me, the result of all of it. The man caught between fire and ash. But as the trucks disappeared into the horizon, one truth settled in my chest like calm after a storm. You can inherit a name. You can inherit a fortune. But the only legacy worth keeping is the one you fight to build yourself. I'm Booz, Nguyen, and these are real stories, told by those who lived them. Subscribe if you're ready for the next truth. If this story made you think twice, hit that subscribe button. The next one might just break you. Thanks for staying till the end. Every week I uncover another story the world tried to forget.